So, Charlie, I'm going to pose this one to you, man. Who do you have coming out of this 3-6 matchup this weekend?
It's the 4 o'clock game, right?
Yes, 4:30.
Yeah, I got the Vikings. As long as it's not night,
I
Kirk
love it.
Cousins.
I love it.
The second the lights come on, it's over. So no, I'll take. If they ride Dalvin Cook and basically let him be the workhorse of their team, I know the Giants' D line is massive, but if they can just ride him and get that going, just a little bit, just keep feeding him the ball and just keep going. No one can cover Justin Jefferson. Like the best, like I said, Mike Williams earlier, but he's the Randy Moss 2.0 freak of nature. Like, just go up and get any ball. Him and Hopkins are probably the two best jump ball receivers in the game, and I guess Mike Williams would probably be right behind them. Hawkins said is a monster. Like, at any point in time, you always have Hawkins said roaming around somewhere in the secondary. Like, I don't see the Giants offense just running the ball the entire game. I know that the Vikings have a horrible defense, but they're just gonna. I have a feeling it's gonna be kind of like the Colts game. I'm sorry to bring that up, but
That fucking hurt. That hurt. That wasn't needed. Kyle, get him off.
No, I'm gonna let him roll with it. He's in game right now, Kev.
I have a feeling it's gonna be like that, where it's just they kind of look meh. They're running the ball a lot. It's just kind of slowly grinding away, and then the Giants have to start playing offense to try to do anything, and it'll probably be like a 1-score game, Giants up, and then the floodgates will come because that offense will stop moving. Like, you can't just ride Saquon and running behind Daniel Jones. Like, Slayton isn't going to do it as a receiver. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a good game. This is probably this and that Niners. Actually, there's a lot of bad games this weekend. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's just bad matchups. Not going to be fun. This is going to be like a 20-21 game or something like that. 2024. It's going to be not good. Just kind of an average NFL game. It's not going to even feel like a playoff game. Kirk Cousins is probably going to throw 2 picks. It's going to be like 250 yards, 2 picks, and somehow they score 4 touchdowns.
Kev, I'm gonna let you take it. I know you got a little bit hurt by that Colts comment.
Listen, it's fine. The Chargers have broken my heart growing up way more times than I can count with Cromartie and yeah, with oh my God, they've crushed our Darren Sproles, Antonio Cromartie, LaDainian Thomas and Phillip Rivers. They're not my favorite bunch of people growing up in the early 2000s. But let's just get into this game. So I actually have the Giants winning this game. I think with the combination of Minnesota's offensive line playing absolutely atrocious the second half of the season, Minnesota's defense being the worst defense in the postseason, and the offense's incapability of being able to get into a consistent rhythm over the course of the last few weeks is going to give the Giants opportunities. This defense is hungry. This defense is young. They have a good pass rush. Their corners are solid. I agree with Charlie. I don't think anybody can necessarily cover Justin Jefferson except for Jair Alexander, who decided to rob me of my fantasy football championship. And again, Jair, you owe me money, man. 2 points, bro. Really? You couldn't let him get a couple fucking points. Anyway, sorry. That's just it. I'm not going to forgive him for that. I don't know, man. I think Daniel Jones has done enough this year to prove to me that he is not going to win you a game with his arm, but his capabilities and the play calling of Dable shows that whether he's on the ground, dipping and diving to, the short, the flat, whatever he's got to do, lean on Saquon for 25 to 30 rushing attempts, it's not going to be the cleanest game in the world. It's not going to be the most exciting game in the world, similar to what Charlie said. But I think they get it done because I think they are more of a gritty, more dominant football team. I think they want it more. I think that they're ready for the adversity. I think that Daniel Jones is tired of the scrutiny. And Saquon's been itching to have himself a pretty big game. He hasn't had one in the last few weeks as well. So I think that he's going to be able to bust a couple big runs out just because of Minnesota's defense being as bad as it is. I think where this can get out of hand is if you put the ball into Daniel Jones's hands too much. Similar to what I said about the Chargers game, if you have Daniel Jones throwing this ball 30, 35, even 40 times, this could get out of hand, and Minnesota's defense with Pat Peterson could find a way to get creative. Daniel Jones has been known in his career to turn the ball over pretty frequently, which he has not turned it over a lot this year. But this is also his first postseason game, so I think that the veteran in Kirk Cousins, who has played in a multitude of postseason games, could have that advantage and find a way to rally and bounce back. But they're going to have to run that offense like Charlie had stated with Dalvin Cook and kind of keep that ball away from the Giants. But I don't know. I think this is going to be a weird one. I think this is going to be 28-24, 24-21, something like that. But I got the G-Men coming out with the upset for sure in Minnesota.
Kev, I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one, but I've said this time and time before with the Vikings. I don't have a lot of faith with them. And we have seen these two teams play each other already this year. They played on Christmas Eve. And, when we look at that game in particular, the Giants' offense was able to effectively move the ball up and down the field against the Vikings' defense. They almost had 450 yards of total offense against the Vikings. The only thing that hurt the Giants in that game was that they turned the ball over twice to the Vikings. One was an interception. They also lost a fumble as well, and the Vikings were able to cash in on those turnovers. Now, going into this game, I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw in the first matchup. I think it's going to be a very poorly played defensive game for both teams here, simply just because when I look at Kirk Cousins and that Vikings offense, Charlie, like you said, this game is not a primetime game, so maybe we're going to see a better version of Kirk Cousins. Granted, it's not the 1 o'clock slot. I know that that's
Yeah.
like his primetime slot where he just
But
goes
there's
bonkers. But in this 425 slot, 430 slot, whatever it is, I think he'll play pretty well against the Giants defense. And that's despite the fact that the Giants have a pretty stingy defense. I mean, the Giants damn near beat the Eagles last week. That could have potentially thrown the entire NFC into shambles had the Eagles lost that game. So going into this game, I think defensively, I think the Giants will be able to play pretty well against that Vikings offense at times. It's just I think there are going to be moments where I think Kirk is going to take some deep shots. And I think Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and maybe even Adam Thielen are going to come up with some plays to really put that Giants defense on their heels. And I still wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings are still going to be able to move the ball effectively at times. And, maybe you throw in some times where the Giants defense steps up and makes some plays to get the Vikings offense off the field for a punt. But overall, I just don't have faith in Daniel Jones. I know he's going up against the Vikings defense, and they're one of the worst defenses. They're one of the worst defenses in the playoffs right now. But until Daniel Jones proves to me that he could be a winning quarterback in a playoff scenario, which we haven't seen up until this point, I just don't have a lot of faith in him. Maybe this is a game where the Giants lean on Saquon Barkley more than Daniel, simply just because Saquon could have a really big game in the ground game for New York, where he could tear off 100 to 125 yards and maybe get a touchdown or two. I think what this game is going to come down to is who's going to make the first mistake. And I'm more inclined to believe, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, I think it's going to be Daniel Jones over Kirk Cousins. I know Kirk Cousins has had plenty of mistakes in his past when it comes to the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if he makes mistakes in this game as well. It's just I think Daniel Jones will make the first mistake, and I think it's going to put them behind the 8 ball, and I think that Giants offense is going to try to get back into the game by just simply passing the ball too much, like Kevin had just outlined a couple minutes ago. And I think they're going to dig themselves in a hole. I think they're going to turn the ball over a couple times against this Vikings defense. They already did it once against the Giants, where the Vikings defense was able to force some turnovers, multiple ones in that first matchup. And I think they will be able to do it again. But to me, this is going to be a very competitive game. I think this is going to be a decent scoring game. I think this is going to be very similar to the first matchup where we saw a 27-24 score in favor of the Vikings the first time around. Honestly, I'm going to pretty much put a similar type of score. I think they win 24-21 over the Giants here. I think Kirk Cousins does enough against the Giants defense. And I think overall, the Vikings do just enough to get by the Giants in this one. But like I said, you guys, I just don't have a lot of faith with the Vikings here. But if I had to pick one over the other, I'm going with the Vikings. This is like a 51-49 split for me. I'm going with the Vikings on this one. That's just how I see it.